Hi, Sunshine. Hello, hello. Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Good morning. You look pretty today. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Have several meetings. Got a
I got you.
big
It's a
meetings
busy
before I
Monday.
leave out tomorrow. Yeah.
Oh, good. All right. I'm just letting all the people in here. We got some new people, which I love. That makes me happy. Good morning. I am dropping two links in the chat. We'll need those in a minute. Give me just a minute to let everybody in here. Good morning, Claire. Good morning, Holly. Good morning. Good to see you guys. Thanks for being here. It's been a while. We haven't seen each other for a few weeks. I've missed you guys, but I've been prepping for this module. We've got some great classes coming up over the next 8 weeks. Kind of while I'm waiting for a couple other people to join in here. Let's talk about some of the topics we're going to talk about. Can you guys hear me okay? Claire, can you hear me okay? Awesome. So obviously today we're going to talk about buyer agency and that whole Department of Justice lawsuit and how it impacts how we get paid in the future. Next week we're going to talk about how to vet your lender or title company. I've got lists of questions that you're going to want to ask and why. Um, the week after, we're going to talk about harnessing the power of a virtual assistant, what all they can do for you, what you could expect in terms of how much they cost, and kind of how to set boundaries and what kind of things you should hire a VA to do and which things you should do yourself. Um, in week 4, we're going to talk about midterm investing and how that's different than short term and long term investing and what you need to know about it. In week 5, we're going to actually do learn about scatter plotting instead of doing a traditional CMA. I'm going to teach you how to use a scatter plot, which is more data driven when you're doing market analysis. It is the number one thing that agents that I coach all over the country tell me. Pricing houses is the hardest thing we do, right? You don't feel comfortable. It's very subjective. There's nothing that's black and white. You don't have like a book that we could look up granite countertops and stainless steel appliances and hardwood floors to tell you how much all that's worth. You kind of have to come up with an idea of things and experience will tell you. So scatter plot will actually take the house that you're trying to comp and it will put it on an X and Y axis and will actually show you truly what the data says the house is worth instead of your personal opinion, which I'm excited to teach that to you guys because it is literally the hardest thing we do is pricing houses and it requires a lot of practice to get really good at it. Week 6, I think we've already talked about selling new construction, but I'm going to dive in a little deeper about how you can really specialize in new construction if you want, how you can build some relationships with some site agents so that you can pick up listings from some particular new construction sites, and some things that you need to know about how you can best represent your clients when selling new construction. So we're going to just go a little bit deeper than we did last time. Week 7, we're going to do contract to close. It's not something I've talked about with you guys before, but I want you to learn basically the ins and outs of contract to close. A lot of you hire that out to somebody, but unless you know how to do it yourself, how can you hold somebody else accountable to represent your business? So I want to teach you how to do that. And then the last one in week 8, we're going to actually break down into 2 sessions, and that's going to be your explanation of services. Remember, that's your elevator pitch of explaining to people what you do for a living. You are not going to say to people, I'm a realtor. That is going to clear the room and scatter the cockroaches. And that's not what we want. And what we want is a way for you to explain to people what you do in an engaging, quick way that is very powerful and meaningful, that's different than a lot of ways that you've done it in the past. It's going to be your special skill when your superpower when you're networking. That explanation of services is going to take us 2 weeks to break it down into how it's supposed to be formatted, and the kind of things that you include in it. And so the first week I'll present it to you, break down the parts. You will then work on it throughout the week, and then the following week we will go back to it and refine it, share them, critique them, like let you really work on them and flesh them out. But I promise you it's going to take you probably 2 weeks to do the explanation of services. So that's our outline over the next 8 weeks of all the things we're going to talk about. I hope that you'll join me every Monday at 10 o'clock over the next 8 weeks, maybe 9 weeks if we break down EOS into 2 weeks. But let's dive in here into this week. Let's talk for a second. I don't know where my 2 new people went, if they're still here with us or not, but all I see are my my tried and true. Oh, they're still here. Great. If you're new to us, welcome. I'm super excited that you're here. We do this call every Monday at 10 o'clock, usually for 8-week sessions. I usually choose topics that I think are important to you guys to learn, to sharpen the saw, to make you better agents. They're always recorded. If you miss it, you can always find the recording in the RECoachCrate closed Facebook group. And if you're not in that group, you can send me a message. I'll be sure to add you to it. But let's talk about buyer's agency and getting paid and what this lawsuit means for us. If you're not familiar, in September of 2005, the Department of Justice basically filed a lawsuit against the National Association of Realtors, saying that that they felt like our industry was not fair competition, and that the way that we got paid was deceptive to buyers and sellers, that we were not clear on how we got paid, and that needed to change. There have been a lot that's happened since 2005, so I'm not trying to go way back in history. I'm trying to tell you what you need to know and what you need to know to move forward. So I'll save the history lesson, but I'll tell you that I have a ton of resources for you. Check in the chat if you're late to the call. Check in the chat. I posted 2 links. One is for the handout for today, and one is for another handout that I'm going to address in a second. If you guys don't see that, let me know in the chat, and I'll repost the links. But basically, the history-wise of this it basically goes back to antitrust. The Department of Justice is trying to say that the National Association of Realtors makes it not competitive for those who are not members of the Realtor Association. So I want you to know there are approximately 1.6 million realtors in the US, 1.6 million across the US. There are probably equal number of real estate agents. And what that means is there are agents who are not required to join the National Association of Realtors, but they still get to practice real estate. It doesn't mean that they're not ethical people. It just means that they chose not to affiliate with a company that requires them to join the MLS. Now, there are some states across the country that require agents, like that MLS is owned by the Realtor Association. And so every agent in that state has to join the MLS, has to join the Realtor Association. But there are companies all across the country that don't require that. There are companies that, so there are probably I think the last I saw was When I was doing research for RECoachCrate and writing my business plan, there were 1.3 million realtors, and that was just 3 years ago. And now we're up to 1.6 realtors and probably equal number of real estate agents. So I want you to think about, for the Department of Justice to say that it's not fair to other real estate agents, it's kind of silly because we have equal number of agents in both realtor and non-realtor categories. The other part is that if you think about how we get paid, it is a little deceiving to the public, to the consumer, about how we get paid. When this lawsuit came down, and this goes into the history, but when the lawsuit came out, they demanded that we change the way we talk about our fee structure. So you used to see agents all the time saying, my fee is free. Like, my services are free. My services are paid for by the seller, or you don't pay me. Basically, my fee is covered. And part of this lawsuit meant we could no longer say that. So if part of your vernacular, part of your vocabulary is you don't pay me as a buyer because my services are free to you or the seller pays them, you need to change your wording. You need to change how you say that because you are in violation of what we agreed to as the National Association of Realtors, is that we are promised transparency to the consumers about how we get paid. And so that means you can't say it's free because it's not free. Your fee is usually wrapped up in the sales price, and that is paid for by the seller. And then the listing agency agrees to give you a portion of that, right? Well, the consumers don't know that. The consumers don't know how we get paid. So part of this lawsuit, I do personally agree, we do have to change the way we talk about how we get paid and make sure it's crystal clear to the consumer where it's coming from. I do think you need to be very keenly aware that this lawsuit is going to bring about changes about how you get paid in the future, which means I think there are going to be some settlements and some agreements that are made that say we're no longer going to get paid by the seller. We're no longer going to get paid by the listing agent. Now, when these changes are coming, I don't anticipate until 2026, 2025, something like that. But there are things that you guys need to start doing now in your business practices to prepare for that. Because most of you don't even like asking a buyer to sign a buyer's rep agreement, much less asking them to pay your fee, right? And the changes that are coming are that you're going to have to start asking buyers to pay your fee. And for some of them, they may not have it. So you're going to have some strategies in place to make sure that, you have that you can explain to them exactly how it is that you are going to get paid. Okay. Candace is asking for the links again. So hang on 1 second for me. Anybody else still need the links? Okay, Bonnie, they're coming your way, honey. Sorry about that.
Laura, I think Daisy needs it.
Okay, I just sent it to everyone. So it's in the chat. Is Daisy on the call? Oh, you're muted.
She's trying to get on. She's having trouble.
Oh, I don't know why. RECC.
I think she's trying to do it from her phone now. She's having trouble with her computer.
Oh, I got you. Okay. Well, what I want you guys to know, well, hopefully she'll get in. If not, she'll watch the replay. But this looks like her now coming in. What I want you guys to know is that you are going to have to be more creative when this lawsuit is settled. It is going to change how we're going to get paid. It's going to change a lot about how brokerages are operating, how the fee structure is done, meaning your fees to the brokerage are going to change. You're going to see a lot of disruptors in the marketplace, and disruptors to me are going to be solutions for maybe offering your buyer financing options to pay your fee. Your biggest struggle though in this is going to be inserting your value and about why you're needed, because I want you to understand the way it is set up right now, the buyers are not having to come out of their pocket to pay your fee, right? They're very fortunate that they get your representation kind of included or free or however you want to look at it. But they're not having to come out of their own pocket for it. And if they're paying for it, their expectations are going to change, right? And so you're going to need to make sure that number one, you are working on your collateral materials that demonstrate to people why you need me. Why do you need to hire me? I would tell you, you should focus on pain points, problem solving. What could go wrong if someone doesn't hire a realtor? If you don't have representation, what are all the things that could go wrong? I would encourage you to start making a list. What are all the things that could go badly if they don't have representation? Start making that list and then start developing solutions. This is why you need me, because I can help you avoid problems with your loan, problems with the paperwork, problems with negotiation, problems with negotiating the home inspection reports, all the problems, that could come up, that do come up in the process of a real estate transaction. What is your responsibility as the agent, and how do you help people avoid those problems or sidestep them? So one, you need to start working on your collateral material to make sure you're prepared to discuss, why are you even needed? Why do you need a realtor? And then why me, right? If you are shy, if you are feeling like a used car salesman, if you are feeling like, I don't want to ask them to pay my fee, you're going to be the ones that are going to suffer when this lawsuit is settled. Because the way we get paid now is not going to be the way we get paid in the future. And so if you don't start making plans and preparations now for it, you're going to be left behind when the settlement finally settles, when the lawsuit settles, and they come up with rules and regulations about how we're going to get paid, you're not going to know what to do. So that's why we're having this a little early, because it's not going to come down for a couple of years, but you need to be prepared with, are you doing the things now that substantiate why someone should hire you? And then why someone should pay your fee on top of it. So I want you to understand too, the consumers believe that we are overpaid. Right? If you poll people and you ask them, do you think realtors, and I would suggest do it on your social media. What do you guys think about the way realtors are paid? Do you think we're overpaid? The answers are all going to be yes, yes, yes. You make way too much money. You don't even do anything for the money. You didn't even do anything to sell the house. The house sold itself, which we know is bullshit, right? We know that's not true. It's all the marketing, all the work I put into it ahead of time that drove traffic through the door that sold the house. But the consumer doesn't see that. Right? So we have got to get really good at inserting our value, at explaining what we do, about encouraging people about why they need representation. And then you're also going to have to be flexible in how you can get paid and creative about how you can get paid. Y'all, if you're talking about these THTA buyers that don't have two nickels to rub together, they've got good credit, but they don't have money, which is a lot of America. A lot of America is 2 paychecks away from being homeless, which is really sad. But that means a lot of people don't have savings. They're saving for a down payment. They're not saving to pay for a realtor's fees to buy a house, right? So we're going to have to start. And that's why I said it's probably not going to come down for several years, because they're going to want to put things in place that allow the public, the consumers, to have time to start saving for those expenses. But I'm just warning you about what's coming. Okay. Everybody with me so far about what the lawsuit is about, why it matters to us? We're all on the same page. Perfect. All right, let's dive in real quick to, let me go back to my screen here. The current status right now, the Department of Justice actually, we made a settlement is what happened. The National Association of Realtors settled with the Department of Justice and said, okay, we agree with you that not everybody understands how we get paid. We agreed no longer to say that our services are free. We're going to change the way we describe that. But you're wrong about competition, right? And out of that settlement came the clear cooperation policy. Speak up and unmute yourself if you don't know what clear cooperation is. And I'll be happy to summarize it for you. Does everybody know what clear cooperation is? If you don't, now's your chance. It's okay if you don't know, just tell me.
I'd love for you to explain it.
Thanks, Bonnie. All right, clear cooperation. Basically, in the old days of real estate, and I want you to think about in the, old days, this goes back like to 2020, basically. So I don't mean way back, but historically, brokerages kept a lot of listings in-house in hopes that they could sell them themselves so that they didn't have to pay cooperating brokerages the commission. They wanted to double it in their office so that the company made more money, right? And so clear cooperation basically said, hey, if you have a sign in the yard, you can't just hold it and sell it to your own agents. You have to make that open and available to sell to all other agents in the area or in the MLS. And so they required us now, and you'll see clear cooperation across the country. That basically means that anytime you advertise or promote a property publicly, we'll say that 5 times fast. Anytime you do that, you have got to put it in the MLS within so many hours, right? And I think clear cooperation says it has to be in there within 48 hours if it is marketed publicly. And that means on social media, it means a sign, what have you. And so that was something that came out of this DOJ lawsuit as well, was that we agreed to stop holding listings in-house because that is not fair competition. It is also not in the best interests of the seller. Remember, maximum exposure for the house, multiple eyeballs, as many eyeballs as you can get on it, is what is in the best interest of the seller. Going to market and having as many people see it as possible, fair market, is actually more beneficial to the seller than just keeping it in-house and hoping one of your agents in your office sells it, right? So that did come out of it. So what the Department of Justice did is they actually went back on our agreement and countersued us again. So they're still taking the National Association of Realtors back to court to try to come up with more demands on our industry. And one of the things I can tell you, and I'll just tell you very quickly, because there's a link down here for a video. If you're interested to learn more about this, you should. But I have a link to the video down that I'll show you in a minute. But basically, the National Association of Realtors, you guys pay all your dues to this, but a lot of you don't even know what you get out of it. You don't know what the association does on your behalf. You have no idea what that $500 or $600 a year goes towards, other than just your access to your MLS and to call yourself a realtor. But the National Association of Realtors is also fighting for home ownership and private and property rights, right? So I can go out and buy a property and I should be able to do with it whatever I want to do with it, rent it, do nothing with it, live on it, whatever it is. There are a lot of people that feel like the government should not be able to tell you what you can do with your own house, right? Something that you own. And that's one of the things that the National Association of Realtors does, is that they advocate for home ownership and they advocate for property rights of owners, period. And there's a whole political arm of the National Association of Realtors, and I'm not really getting into that so deeply. My biggest concern is that as far as consumers are concerned, they believe that we are overpaid. They don't understand what exactly we do. And we're going to run into trouble later down the road if you don't start figuring out a way to justify how you get paid and how much you get paid, and then not being afraid to ask for it. It's as simple as that. Okay. You are going to see changes in compensation models, which means we may see where we stop getting paid commission and we start moving to flat fees or hourly rates. You may no longer be getting paid 3% of a sales price, or 2.5% or 2%, whatever the percentage is. You may they may restructuring our compensation altogether, and you might start seeing flat fees. My fee is $10,000, period, regardless of what the sales price of the house is. Or you might see hourly rates where somebody pays you a retainer, much like an attorney, and you're gonna basically, that's your fee. Okay. You are going to see greater transparency in how the commissions are divided if we get paid commissions. So you're going to see more explanation where the public probably has to sign off seeing how much you get paid. You see that now on the settlement statements, but it may be an additional disclosure in the very beginning of the process when they go under contract to show how you're getting paid and by whom, right? That's the part that consumers don't know right now. We get paid by the seller right now, and a lot of them don't know that, right? They don't really understand how we're getting paid. You're gonna see probably reduced commissions are going to start decreasing. So like, if your fee now is X% of the sales price, and now you're going to a flat fee, you might see that you might make less money. That might mean people would get out of the business altogether, which I'm fine with. Get out. If you're a part-timer who doesn't do anything, or you're just wasting space, or you are suck, then get out of the business. I don't care. Right? Bye. But if you are an ethical agent who really works hard for your clients and you do a great job, I don't want to see you starve to death. I want to see you flourish and make a lot of money. So you're going to have to start inserting value and making sure that you can explain to people why you are worth the fee that you charge and why they should gladly pay it, right? You're also going to see, you're going to have to adopt some new models in order to maintain the income that you've been making, right? A lot of these agents who go from making $250,000 a year, it's going to be a rude awakening if their income all of a sudden dropped down to 100 grand, or maybe their income goes up to 300 grand because there's a new way to get paid. We don't really know what it's going to look like, but I'm concerned enough to tell you to start preparing. Okay. So one of the things I want to talk about, one of the links that I sent you, and I'm going to stop my share for a second and go to that one. Hi, Daisy. Good morning, sweetie.
Good morning.
Let's go to this one, which is the 179 ways agents who are realtors are worth every penny of their compensation. There's a 4-page document here that basically says it breaks down all of our activities into pre-listing activities, the listing appointment itself. It's 24 pages, my bad. But this is straight from the National Association of Realtors website. You can download it as a PDF. How many of these things do you think the consumer knows that you do? I would tell you most of them they may not know. So you may want to go through this and create your own content that uses these things. You may want to make it in a prettier, nicer infographic. I think this is a lot of wasted space and stupid, the way that they have it. But bottom line is I just wanted you to be familiar with the list that there's 179 items on there that we take care of that a lot of the consumers don't know. Okay. Other ways that you can insert your value, and this is going to be super important. You are going to need to have an expertise and knowledge about the market. You need to demonstrate that you know the local real estate market, you know neighborhoods, you know property values, trends, you know trends. I'm hearing feedback on my end. I'm sorry. You're gonna. I think it's Daisy. Are you still on your phone? Daisy, are you still on your phone?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Are you logged in through your phone or your computer?
Phone. I'm on my phone because my computer, it wanted some crazy update. I couldn't fix it.
Okay.
So
I was wondering if the feedback was just through the phone or if it was the computer, but it's okay. Can you guys hear me okay? Somebody said I was muted.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So one of the things you're going to have to know what percent of list price sellers are getting, how much seller contributions are sellers giving, what's trending in your marketplace, are people asking for concessions, what's the going rate for buyers agent services in your market when this lawsuit gets settled. What is that going to look like? What is that going to look like? Okay. You're going to need to have stronger negotiations skills. Sorry, y'all. I don't know.
let me mute mine.
Very frustrating. Very frustrating. Okay. You're going to need to have stronger negotiation skills, which means do you have a proven track record of getting things that your clients need or want agreed to in the deal? Is that something you're highlighting to your clients? Are you demonstrating to the public that you are a skilled negotiator? There is a designation that you can take, that you are a certified negotiation expert. Is that one that you've taken? Have you worked on your negotiation skills? Do you know how to get a win-win for your client? And are you educating your clients on your negotiation skills? Or are you a pit bull on a bone? Like, are you the one that no agent wants to go up against because you're horrible to work with? Are you sharing client testimonials and reviews? I'm going to ask you guys this again, just to make sure you guys listen to me. When is the best time to solicit a testimonial from your client? Is it at closing?
When you're under contract,
When are
when
they
you
the
get them under
happiest?
contract.
Right when they go under contract is when they're the most excited, right? So much can go wrong between that time and the closing table. Don't wait until closing to ask for a testimonial. Make sure that you're asking for that. Remember, your testimonials, y'all, those are not your opportunity to pound your chest. What they are is real life success stories. They are real life proof to demonstrate your value and how you help somebody. Okay. You are going to need to tailor your services to each client's unique needs and goals. And that's something you need to communicate to the public. If you're promoting yourself as a realtor, you need to be able to explain to them that everybody's purchase is not the same. Everyone has different goals, right? And your job as an agent is just like an attorney. When they get a case, that case law is specific to that person and that particular law. Your real estate services are going to be very specific to that buyer or seller's needs and goals, and you can curtail your services based on their needs, right? Which is also why you're going to see complex pricing that is not just a percentage of the sales price. It's going to be your menu of services is going to be laid out. What I envision is you're going to get paid for doing certain tasks. So you need to make sure you're doing as many tasks that they need you to do so you can get paid the most amount of money. Does that make sense? Maybe? Okay. You need to have access to listings. And that means you need to grow your off-market strategies, grow your networking groups, grow your ability to find properties that are off-market, because that is a skill set that buyers are going to be willing to pay you for, especially in a highly competitive market. If the buyer is paying your fee and they've seen everything that's on the MLS, they're paying you to help them find something that's not already available. They're paying you to help them find off-market solutions in a competitive market, right? I want you to think back to 2 years ago when we had buyers paying $200,000 over list price and giving away every concession, like no inspection, no appraisal, whatever. During that time, it was such a hot market. Trust me, if you had an off-market deal or you had a listing coming to the market, there was such low inventory that a buyer certainly would have paid you for knowing about a house that they didn't know about yet, or finding them exactly what they were looking for that's not on the market, right? So you need to expand your skill set of finding properties that are exclusive opportunities or not listed yet, or things they don't know about. I want you to think back when I started in real estate, when dinosaurs roamed the earth and Moby Dick was a minnow. We used to have an MLS in a book that was printed once a week. Consumers did not have access to the houses that were for sale. They had to come to us to get that. Our market, our industry has changed so much that the data is now available at the client and the consumer's fingertips. They don't need you to find the house anymore. But if you would go back to implementing tools and skills to help you find properties that they don't know about, now all of a sudden you have value to them. Now all of a sudden they need you because you know of a house that fits their criteria that's not on the market. They don't see it on Zillow. They don't know where it is. That's where your skill is, right? Does that make sense? You've got to be able to find something they don't know about. You need to have a streamlined process, which means you should be very system and process driven, saving them time, reducing stress, and keeping things from falling through the cracks, right? Those are things you want to highlight to your consumers that you are very streamlined, process oriented, that you've got a very well-oiled machine. This isn't something you just started doing yesterday, that you are organized, highly organized, and that you are going to make sure everything goes smoothly, right? Remember, if someone's paying you for your services, and again, we don't approach it like that because the seller pays us. But imagine how differently you would treat your buyer client if that buyer client was the one stroking the check for $25,000. How different would your services be? Maybe they would be the same for some people. They should be, but I'm just telling you, once the buyer is the one striking the check, you're going to elevate your service to that client differently. Okay. Legal and contractual expertise. This is the part that your clients don't do this every day. They don't know the loopholes. They don't know what could go wrong. They don't know what the legal implications are of not having representation and how they could be sued, how they could be liable for information, how they could be buying a lemon, how they could be buying the money pit, right? There's all kinds of legal implications for your representation. And is that something that you can talk articulately to your clients and saying, hey, I've been in real estate for 25 years and I've sold in 4 states. I can tell you, I know that contract forwards and backwards like the back of my hand. Even if I just got in real estate 6 months ago, I should know what that contract says, paragraph by paragraph. That is my job to know, right? It's not the consumer's job to know what that contract says. It's my job to know and to explain it to them and to discuss to them the legal implications of signing that contract, right? When this whole thing comes down, that is what is going to separate the people who are just part-timers or in it for the money or whatever it is. Does your service equate to a service that somebody is willing to pay tens of thousands of dollars for? Or is it something that somebody should have just given you $500 for? Because there's a big difference to the 2 levels of service, if you ask me, right? And that's the other thing when I say disruptors. A person can go online right now in certain markets and they don't need you. They can let themselves into the house with an app and uploading their driver's license. They can even fill out an actual offer to purchase on that company's website. They can drop off their check to an attorney without you, and the closing can happen without you. They have recommended vendors that have inspection links to inspectors. They have links to other types of inspections that a buyer could want, and they could order this whole thing on a computer without any advice from you or any consultation. If that does not scare you enough to say, whoa, then you need to open your eyes, because those are the kinds of disruptors that are going to happen in the marketplace when this happens. When this comes down the pike and the DOJ gets what they want, which is changes in how we get paid, there are going to be people who are going to step up and say, you know what? You don't have to spend $20,000 to hire a realtor. Go to our website. We've got it all done for you. You can just write the offer yourself. Well, what kind of problems are going to arrive from that? People who have never done this before, right? Do they know the things to look for? Do they know how scary that could be? Do they know what kind of inspector they should be getting? Are the inspectors that are recommended ASHI certified? Do they know that they should get a septic inspection? Do they know that they should get the pool equipment inspected? Like, are there going to be enough educational things there for the consumer to know what they should do? Or is it going to be a gotcha? Like, oh, sorry, you should have done your homework, right? And there are people who are not going to pay you because they're cheap or they don't have the money. And they're going to go to services like this because they can. They don't have to. And the only way they're going to hire you is if you do a good enough job saying, oh my God, would you ever buy the most expensive asset in your life without guidance from somebody who knows how to do it? Why would you do that? Right? But you've got to focus on the problems that could happen. You've got to focus on what could go wrong. You need to make sure that you're letting people know why they need you and the ways that you can help them. You also should be providing market insights to your people. You're the one that's supposed to know the market trends and what's happening and any investment opportunities that could exist. You also should be highlighting the technology and tools that you use to help them achieve their goals. So are there specific things that you do that are different than other people? What technology is that? Does the consumer have access to that? Think about the MLS by itself. And this is just one tool that you have. You have 50, but I'm just talking about the MLS right now. You think about, what tools do I have that the consumer does not have access to? They don't have Realtor RPR, right? They don't have the MLS. What other tools are you using that they need? But the MLS itself, yes, they have Zillow. Yes, they have Redfin. Yes, they have Realtor.com. But they don't get that information without us. We put it in the MLS and it gets syndicated to other places. If they ever change that and stop syndicating, who would be the gatekeeper of the information? We would be. Then they would need you to know about houses for sale. But I don't know that we're ever going to go backwards like that, where we're going to be the gatekeepers anymore. But what you want to say is the MLS is self-governed and self-maintained. We are in control of it. We have access to data that is real, true data that is only available in the MLS, not available in Zillow, not available on Realtor.com, not available on Redfin, etc. What information does your MLS have that you have access to that the consumers do not? Some of that is going to be in our fast stats, our info sparks, if you're in RealTrax. Brandy, I'm not sure in your market, like what your MLS has that you might have access to certain data or charts or graphs or whatever that is not available to the general public. So you want to investigate what that is so that you can talk intelligently to consumers about what it is that you have access to. What tools do you have that the consumer does not, right? And then education and guidance, you should be offering resources to help them make informed decisions, which means right now you need to be hosting seminars and webinars about what things they need to know, right? What kind of things, what's most common things that come up in a home inspection? What are the most common financing options out there right now? What are some good negotiation strategies? But you should be offering some guidance. Networking, obviously, that's going to help you find those off-market opportunities, but also who's in your arsenal? Who makes up your team? Because remember, when you're a buyer and you're going in alone, you have access to all those inspectors, to plumbers, to carpenters, to handymen, to electricians. You know, as a consumer, you probably don't have that network, right? One of the reasons that people want to hire you is because you have somebody for that. I have a network of people that will do anything and everything you need related to a house. That's what you need me for. You need access to my network. Does that make sense? I'll pay you for that. Versus I have to go to Angie's List or Thumbtack and I get screwed over by 22 contractors. Nobody shows up. People take my money. I'd rather pay to have access to a network of people that are great quality workmen that have already been vetted and are trustworthy, right? Highlight that to your clients. Let them know you have access to that. This is why you need me, right? Transparency, you're going to have to maintain transparency with dealings with everybody, including what your fees are going to look like. Right now, I'll be very honest with you. Most of you, when you see a listing, and I am not talking about any kind of common or normal or normally accepted commission. I'm just using examples. Bottom line is that if your normal fee is 3% and you sell somebody a house and the builder only pays you 2%, are you fighting for your 1% right now? Or are you just saying, oh, that's all the builder was willing to pay me, so I guess I'm only going to get paid 2% today? Because if you're not willing to fight for your extra 1% now, you're going to have a really hard time when this lawsuit goes through, because you're going to have to fight for all your money, not just 1%. That's the point. Okay? You need to make sure that you are inserting your value about why you're worth every penny that your fee is, whatever that fee is. Some of you don't even like asking your client to pay a transaction fee. So how are you going to fight for your fee that feeds your family and pays your taxes and pays your bills? You've got to stand up for what it is that you do and your profession and what value you bring to the table or you're going to get left behind when it comes to how you get paid. You're going to starve. And I don't mean that in an ugly way. I'm just telling you, if you can't even ask somebody to pay a $350 transaction fee, if you have it, how are you going to ask somebody to pay you tens of thousands of dollars for your services if you don't even like asking for a $160 fee, right? Keep that in mind. So you need to have full transparency and then back it up with honesty and trustworthiness and explanation and value about why you're worth that every penny of that. You are going to have to show that your primary focus is on your client's best needs, their best interests, and your commitment to helping them. You guys will hear me say this over and over and over again. When a client is upset with you, the first piece of advice I always give you is remind them that you're on their team, right? Remind them that you are working to accomplish their goals. When they're upset, even if it's not at you, they're just upset. They need to know that you're working on their behalf. You're on their team. And you're going to have to keep reminding them of that, especially if they're paying your fee. You're going to need to keep reminding them that I work for you. My job is to help you accomplish your goals, but you are the person that I'm out here looking out for, right? That's what you're paying me for. You should, focus on continuing education to sharpen the saw. Make sure you're up to date on the latest industry trends and best practices. And you should be sharing detailed cases about how you've helped clients overcome challenges and achieve their goals. So that, again, is going to be your testimonials. It's also going to be case studies. People love storytelling. Tell people how you met them. Tell people what the challenge was. Tell people how you solved the challenge and what the end result was. Those stories go so much further than you just posting a static picture of the front of a house saying just sold. Say, I want you to meet Bobby and Doreen. I met them at the county fair last summer when they mentioned that they had a house to sell and wanted to downsize. Their challenge was finding a house in the area that they wanted. So I utilized my network and found them an off-market listing that was coming, and we closed in 12 days. That is a success story that is more relatable to most people, and it makes it human and demonstrates your expertise. Does that make sense? Stop doing the front of the house saying just sold and start telling stories. How you met people, what the challenge was, how you solved it, and where they are now. How they benefited from your expertise. Your role in it. Not just, oh, look, somebody got keys today. That's great. That's exciting. But it's not as impactful as success stories, case studies. You should be explaining to people your referral network. Do people know that you can refer them an agent anywhere in the country? Do they know that you have access to people all over the country? Right? That you can vet for them and make sure that it's a good fit for them. Right? Do they know that you have that access? Work on your communication skills, including how you keep your client informed throughout the transaction. You should have some basic, if it's 10-step buy process, you should have some basic emails already set up that say, hey, congratulations, you're under contract. Hey, don't forget to turn on your utilities. Hey, your appraisal has been ordered. Hey, we're going to schedule our final walkthrough. Have you gotten insurance? Like, you should have 10 little, however many steps of the process are that you want to have outgoing conversation. You should already have those developed. That's a system, right? Letting your clients know along the way. If you have to do something more than once, there should be a system involved for it. So obviously, if you have more than one client ever in your life, you are going to want to have these emails already ready and drafted and ready to send out to them so that you're keeping them informed along the way. That won't take you long. And then basically you should be illustrating to them how you're helping the client save money or how you're helping them make cost-effective decisions. Remember, when it comes to value, people want to know, if I paid you $12,000, what is that going to save me in the future? Well, if you think about real estate, what if they bought the money pit, or what if they got sued? Hiring me could potentially save you hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? You need to assign some kind of price tag to it, or you need to be able to talk about it in a quantitative way that says, hey, I know my fee is not cheap, but let me tell you why I'm worth every penny of it. Because without me, it could cost you $100,000 versus 12, right? You need to make sure that you're explaining it that way. You're going to see some business models of brokerages change based on whatever the Department of Justice says. You're going to see that people may no longer operate on commissions, and they may actually operate on flat fee services or hourly rates or retainers. One of the things that you're going to see is that the more public the lawsuit gets, the more attention it gets, the more it's on the news, the more the public is going to think they don't need us. Right? They're going to think that the reason that the Department of Justice was warranted in changing the way that we got paid, and they're going to think that you're going to have to combat client perceptions about how we get paid, and that needs to start now, right? The more that the public voices positive reasons for hiring agents, the public tells stories about how a realtor saved their butt or how a realtor helped them achieve their goals, the less the DOJ is going to be on our butt, right? So the more they hear positive stories from consumers about positive experiences with real estate agents, the less they're going to be to try change everything about our industry that we currently know. So that's why we have to start now, several years in advance, in priming the pump and making sure that consumers understand how we get paid, what we do to get paid, and why it matters, why you should hire us, right? Don't go this alone. So some of the ways you're going to have to get creative, I'm going to go very fast through these, is that you're going to have to get creative, or what we see is coming is you're going to see you're going to have to introduce buyer broker agreements much earlier in the transaction. Some of you wait until the buyer finds the house, and that's going to be too late. Because again, if the buyer is paying your fee, you're going to have to start the conversation a whole lot earlier about legal representation. Okay, so you can't be afraid at introducing the buyer agency agreement. You have got to get good and confident about that agreement, what it means, why a buyer should sign it, and then if there is compensation attached to that, you should feel confident in asking for that fee to be paid and substantiating why you earned that fee. So if you're not there yet, and right now you're not even getting paid by a consumer, you're getting paid by a seller. If you're not there yet where you can actually tell somebody, hey, this is the buyer agency agreement that hires me, and here's why it's important to you, and here's what it outlines. If you're not skilled there, you need to work on that. You need to work on summarizing the paragraphs. You need to work on summarizing why should I sign this document? That is the number one question that buyers will ask you is, well, I've never signed one of those before. Why do I have to sign one? And I'm not going to commit to just working with you. You're going to have language in place that you are prepared to say when someone combats you with that buyer agency agreement. Everybody agree with me there? You're going to need to review it. You're going to need to summarize it. You're going to need to get very good and very comfortable about explaining why it's necessary. And then you're also going to have to put boundaries in place for yourself. If someone says to you, I'm not signing that, I don't want to hire you, stop wasting your time on them and move on. Or you're going to have to argue with, hold your own and fight for yourself and your fee and explain to them why you're not going to spend any more time driving them around looking at houses unless they're willing to commit to you, unless they're willing to hire you. Some will, some won't. So what? The ones that won't, move on. Go find some others. The ones that will, they get your A time. They've already demonstrated that they're committed to you. Stop wasting your time on people that won't commit to you. Okay? You're going to see flat fees. I don't know what those flat fees are going to look like, but I can tell you what the pundits all expect is that it's going to be probably half of what we normally get paid now if we go to a flat fee model, which is really going to change the income structure for a lot of people. Okay? But you are going to see the free market is that the fees are going to range. They're going to be all different types of fees. There's some are going to be bigger than others. Some that's going to foster competition among brokerages where you're going to start to see fees and prices come down because they have to stay competitive with other firms, because you will always find somebody who will do it cheaper, right? Always. But what are they compromising if they do it cheaper? That's where your job is, to insert your value and why you're worth every penny, right? No two agents are going to, services are going to be exactly alike, right? What you bring to the table is going to be what somebody is willing to pay you for. You might get paid hourly. This can be advantageous for clients who value their expertise, but they want to control costs, and maybe they just want to they've already chosen the house themselves, or they've already done a lot of the research, and maybe your job is just to write up the contract. I want you to be cautious of the hourly rates. It's not how I would coach you to, if you charge hourly, it should be a very significant hourly rate based on your experience and your knowledge and what you know how to do. We're not talking $25 an hour. We're talking about, professional services like accountants, attorneys, doctors, and that's what your hourly rate should be based on. But you're always going to find people, if we move to an hourly rate compensation, you're going to have disruptors that say, I'll do it for $25. And you're just going to have to let them do it and know that you're going to have to insert your value about why somebody should pay you $250 when I can get it for $25. What's the difference, right? Fee sharing, this is going to be basically, the buyer could agree to a portion of the agent's fee with the seller covering the rest. You might negotiate your fee. Your fee may be split between the two parties. Negotiation skills, basically you could be helping, your expertise can help save the buyer's money during the transaction, or making their fee an investment, if it's something that you can show them that hiring you is going to put them in a better financial position than hiring somebody else. You could get closing cost credits and use those credits to pay your fee. You could offer some kind of package deals or bundle services to where, if a buyer hires you, they also get a home inspector, they get the title attorney. There could be a bundling that happens. Educational seminars, again, you guys are going to have to educate people about how you're going to get paid when the changes come down. The more that the clients know about what to expect, the more that they're okay with it, but you have to have the conversation early in the process. And then the payment plans, we might have to offer flexible payment plans that allow the buyers to spread the fee over a certain period of time. So you're going to see promissory notes, you're going to see agreements to pay. You might even see some financing options that include your fee for ways that they can get paid. Any questions about any of that? Everybody understands what's going on. They understand what I mean by inserting your value and demonstrating to them why they need you. I have given you some resources here. The top one here says competition.realtor. It takes you to it takes you to the National Association of Realtors website that they set up a page that deals specifically with this lawsuit and deals specifically with ways that you can combat your fee and things like that. There's also press releases from the Justice Department. There's also some articles from Inman and Real Trends. And then even an update from the Greater National Association of Realtors. And then I've given you other links too, if you really are nerdy and you want to know more about it, you can click on any of those. There are a couple of things in that NAR website that I thought was helpful. One basically says, do you know what local brokers do for you? And this is a great infographic that basically educates the consumer about why you need me and how it would go if you didn't have representation. Start promoting that. Start making content that talks about the dangers of not having an agent, what could go wrong. Because remember, when you solve the problems they have, you now have inserted value for yourself, why they should hire you. And then there was another one on here that was called The Economics of Buying a Home. And it was basically trying to show people what the median down payment is, and that most lenders don't allow our compensation to be financed. And so it's basically just trying to show people that this lawsuit might make it actually harder for people to get representation if they don't have the money. They're trying to encourage them not to change the way we get paid, because a lot of consumers will not have access to money that they would need in order to pay our fee. And then is that better for consumers or worse to not have the ability to pay for representation? Do they deserve that? Are they entitled to that? Right? But should they have to pay for it themselves? So there's tons of resources out there for you. My encouragement to you is start with the problems, the things that could go wrong if someone does not have representation, and start combating those things that could go wrong with solutions. What solutions do you provide that that consumers need to know about, right? What kind of things are you available? You know, what kind of things do you solve on behalf of the consumer now that people don't know unless they're agents? Like, again, go back to that list of 179 things and go through that list and make sure that the consumers know what all you do, right? Do you guys understand the whole process? And I know you don't, because most of us don't, unless you've been in car sales before. Do you know what happens behind the scenes when you buy a car? Do you think that consumers know what happens behind the scenes when they buy a house? Do they know what you do? Do they know every step of the process? You want to be a gatekeeper of some of the information, because you don't want to give them everything so that they don't need you, but you want to give them enough to know, hey, without me, things could go really wrong. And it could be very costly for you. It could cost you a lot of money. It could be catastrophic. You could get sued. Or even worse, it could be, a terrible investment because that person didn't know the highway was coming through there or whatever. Like, there's a lot of information that we know that the consumers don't know, that we need to make sure we're doing a good job of educating them about why they need it. So personally, I would start with what problems could go wrong, have solutions for those. And then the other part I want you to know is, are you communicating to people about why they should hire you, why they should not go with alone, and what kind of solutions you have in place to sidestep problems that could happen. And then I would tell you, get really good at that buyer agency agreement, when to introduce it, how to introduce it, how to overcome objections with it. And if that is something that you guys want another class on, let me know. I'll be happy to do that. But the biggest thing that you guys have to do is get real comfortable about explaining to people how we get paid and what the expectations are around it, right? There are a lot of people, Claire, those infographics came from the link on that compensation or competition.realtor. Both of those PDFs can be found at that first link. There are a lot of people out there that, think they know what we do. They go around to a lot of open houses, or they watch a lot of HGTV, but they don't know what all we do. And there are a lot of people that also will not sign a buyer broker agreement because they're not loyal. They're bouncing around from agent to agent to agent because they are self-serving and they want the best deal and they don't want to be tied down. But you are going to have to get really good at protecting your time and setting boundaries for yourself. If someone will not commit to you, you let them go. And you go on and you find people that will commit themselves to you, or you get better at giving people a reason to commit to you. What I find is that the people don't commit to you because you have not demonstrated enough to them to show them why you're the one that they need. They don't need 5 other people. You have not done enough to convince them that hiring you is enough, that they don't need to hire 5 other people, right? Or that they should commit to you, because if you want my A time, I want you to commit to me on paper. That is worth it for me to drop what I'm doing on a Friday night when I'm getting ready to sit down and eat dinner with my family, and you want me to go show you a house that just came on the market. I'm not going to do that for somebody who has not committed to me, who has not legally hired me. You don't get the benefit of my A time, right? So get really good at explaining that buyer broker agreement. Get really good at inserting what the expectations are. And then don't be afraid to insert some boundaries if you need to or to do a better job at inserting the value that you bring. If you are struggling in this area, then that's an area you need to focus on, is getting really good at explaining that document and fighting for it, right? Because if I write 3 on that blank that says I'm going to get paid 3%, and that other agent right now, the way we get paid, is only willing to pay me 2, am I going to go to my client and say, hey, we discussed my fee in the beginning, and unfortunately this person is not paying my full fee, but my full fee is due. You're responsible for the difference. And we have charged a lot of our clients the difference of that fee because we insert it at the very front of the conversation. We talk about it from the very beginning of the relationship, and they know exactly how much we charge for our services. But we are also backing up our services with value so that client doesn't bat an eye when we say, hey, that extra $5,000 if the seller's not willing to pay us, you actually owe us. And we collect it at closing. They don't mind paying it because we've demonstrated to them that we're worth every penny that we're charging them, or every penny of our fee that we want to collect. But if you're scared to do that, or if you don't feel like you're inserting the value, we're going to have to work on that, because things are going to change. They are going to change how you get paid. And rather than fear it and be afraid of it and scared that you're not going to be in business anymore, you need to hunker down and make sure that you are inserting value and that you are advocating for your own business and you're advocating for your own services, and give them no doubt as to why they should hire you, why you're the right person for the job, and why you're needed. Okay? Any questions or discussion? Let's open up the floor for discussion. Anybody have any commentary or thoughts or aha moments or something that they decided they heard today that they were going to work on? And don't you all talk at once at me on a Monday morning. Shh. Quiet.
For me, it's just getting better with the buyer rep
Okay.
agreement to spew the information and the benefits
Okay.
of them signing it.
Okay. And we're going to talk about that when I see you this week. Let's bring a blank copy of it with you if you don't mind. And let's talk about the buyer broker agreement. Make sure you feel more comfortable with it. Okay. Bonnie asked me, do you also feel like mortgage companies, and thank you for speaking up, Candace. Do you also feel like mortgage companies will change to be able to allow buyers to roll? Yes, you're gonna see that if this settlement is successful. And y'all, the DOJ is very powerful. Like, again, they made agreements with us, we made settlements, and then they went back on that settlement and sued us again because they're not happy with the results. They don't feel like the consumer is protected or knowledgeable enough. And they see the National Association of Realtors as a big monopoly, which it's not if you have equal number of non-members. But anyway, one of the things that is going to come down is you're going to see options. Like, how am I going to get paid? Because again, if you look at that second graphic I showed you that talked about the economics of buying a house, if most households in America are less than 2 paychecks away from poverty or homelessness, how are they going to come up with $30,000 or $20,000 to pay you for services to buy a house? They're not going to be able to. And so they're going to have to find creative ways, whether that is rolled into a loan, or that is a promissory note, or that is some negotiation, or if the lender now is paying a portion of it, somebody different is going to have, there are going to be options to get it paid. But I do think, Bonnie, that there will be the ability probably to roll that fee into the cost, just like they do with a VA loan, and they usually roll the VA funding fee into it. Typically that happens. So you may see that in the future. Good question. Anybody else have their what they want to share, what their takeaway was, or what their focus is going to be after this?
I like the part about going through what could go wrong and having a solution for each of those.
Good.
So that, and practicing that so that you're prepared for it.
Correct. And what could go wrong? Your goal is not to scare the shit out of them so that they have to hire you because they're scared to death. But your goal is to inform them, are you aware of what all could go wrong without us? Are you aware of what we do that helps solve so many problems just by hiring us now. I agree with you, Cindy. I think that the consumers need to know what could go wrong, and then you need to have solutions in place. Do you have to tell them what all your solutions are? No. Again, I don't want you to give them everything so they don't need you. Teach them everything you know. I want you to let them know, hey, these are the things that could go wrong. But guess what? I have systems in place that sidestep that. I have solutions because I'm a proven, professional with years of experience. I already know how to avoid that. So hire me and you don't have to worry about that. You don't tell them what your solutions are. I'm glad you said that, Sydney. You don't want to tell them what all your solutions are, but you want to tell them that you have a solution to every one of these, right? Or pick 4 or 5 of the biggest problems, and then you can share those solutions if you want. But you are 100% right. You're going to have to start telling people what could go wrong because they don't know. Right? Anybody else? Don't make me call on you. All right. Was this helpful? You can lie to me and say
Yes, very.
You can lie. It's okay. All right. Next week, same bat time, same back channel, 10 o'clock, RECoachCrate.com. We're going to talk about vetting your title attorneys and your lenders. I'm going to give you questions you can ask each one, and I'm going to explain to you why we ask these questions, why these answers to these questions matter in terms of who you work with and why you choose these various companies. Okay? In the meantime, go on out there, start working on inserting your value. Believing that you have value is the first step. You are not a salesperson. You're not a used car salesperson. You are in the service industry who provides a valuable service to consumers, helping them navigate buying and selling homes. Y'all got to stop looking at yourself as salespeople, because that is actually holding you back from making phone calls and holding you back from actually reaching out to people and talking to them because you feel like you're bothering them. Once you realize that you have something of value to offer people and you can help them navigate the process, then the intrepidation of bothering people goes away, because I'm here to help. How can I help? Right? So I want you to go into this week telling yourself, I'm not a salesperson. I am in the service industry, and what service I provide is needed by consumers. And if you don't feel that way, start making your list of what all could go wrong, because very quickly you're going to realize you have solutions to it. And that's why you're needed and not a salesperson. Start there. Okay? Go out and kill it this week. Have a wonderful week. I'm here if you need me for anything. Thank you for those who joined for the first time. And thank you for those who keep coming back week after week to keep sharpening the saw and being a better agent for your clients. Okay? Y'all have a wonderful day. Thank you, Bonnie. I appreciate you. You rock too. Okay? Have a great day, y'all. See you later. Cindy, I'm going to call you in just a minute. Bye.